Hello, happy Halloween, everybody. I wanted to share some spooky stories with you today, and I've got three, possibly four stories here that I can share with you today, and they're all kind of short, so I'm just going to try to do them. I got some pictures I need to share with you before we get started so that you have an idea of kind of who I'm talking about. Well, this first picture is of my grandmother, Annis McKenna Clemens, and they always claimed she was related to the Indians, and I don't know if that's true or not because I've never seen any documents that had any Indian names on it. Back then, it was most Native Americans would put on a census that they were white or black because they didn't want to say that they were Native American. So Native American lineage is very difficult to prove. So maybe she was, maybe she wasn't, I don't know. And here is a picture of my grandfather, Millard Clemens. He's going to be an important figure in this story. And here's another picture of my grandfather, Millard Clemens. Very tough looking man. And here's a picture of my grandmother, Flora Alexander Clemens. And she's standing in front of that old Confederate hospital down there at Big Hill that's really spooky and haunted. So the first story is about a witch that lived in Jackson County, and she was all the time trying to barter with her neighbors because that's how they did business back then. There wasn't any money hardly, and she would take her eggs and whatever she had to the neighbors and try to barter with her to get whatever she needed. And they didn't want nothing to do with her because they knew she was a witch or really suspected that she was a witch, and they wouldn't barter with her, and they made her mad. And she would go to their farms and get a blade of grass or a pinch of dirt or a hair off of a cow's tail, whatever she could use to make a charm or a potion, and she would hang that up above her door with a rag, and she would curse them farmers and curse their cows. And she would milk that rag, and she would say, "Come, milk, come. Come, milk, come." And milk would pour out of that rag and fill her bucket. And she would drink that milk. And then when them farmers went to milk their cows would be dry because she had already milked those cows through witchcraft. And Grandma always told us that story, that it was true, and I think that she told that to kind of prove that she was a witch. And the next story is about that same witch, and Grandma Annis and Grandpa Millard. They were walking down the road, and they had their baby with them, and I believe it was my Aunt Laney, and they had her all bundled up, and they passed that witch, and she said that she wanted to see the baby, and Grandma Annis said, "No, I don't wanted to get her out. I got her all bundled up, and it's kind of nippy out here. I don't want to get her out." And she wouldn't let that witch see the baby. And that made that witch mad. And she went home and cast a spell on a rooster and used that rooster as a familiar so that rooster could carry her spell back to Granny Annis and Millard's house. And that baby started to get sick. And Grandma Annis said, "I know that witch has witched my baby. I know she has. She has witched my baby." And the closer that rooster got to their house, the more powerful her spell became, and the sicker the baby got. And that rooster flew up on the porch of their house, and Grandpa Millard seen it, and he ran and got his shotgun and shot and killed that rooster. And when he did, that kind of nullified the spell that she had cast, and the baby got all right. So, and she always told that was the gospel truth. And so now we're getting to the story of that old Confederate hospital at Big Hill that was haunted. And there's a story that goes with that house about a nurse, and her name was May, and she took care of a Confederate soldier named Captain Speck, and she did her best to try to nurse him back to health. And she got consumption, and both of them died in that house. And because they had such a tragic death, their spirits became trapped in that house. And a lot of the sightings that they seen in that house were of Nurse May and Captain Speck. And some of the stairs and some of the walls of that house had been repaired with ammunition boxes. And they tore them ammunition boxes apart from the Battle of Richmond and used it to repair the walls of that house. I don't know if a cannonball or what went through that house, but it's possible because that house had been repaired. And when Grandpa owned that house, it didn't have any water in it. And Grandpa and my Uncle Jimmy Chrisman worked together to put water in that house. And while they were underneath the floor of that house, they found some bills and a jar full of Confederate coins. And someone had left that money there. And I suspect it was a soldier that went to fight in the Battle of Richmond, and he must have got killed because he never returned to claim the money that he had hid there. And how they used that house was upstairs. There's a big room on the right, and it was where the patients that were waiting to be operated on would sit and wait. And on the left was a big room, and it was where the operating room was. And in the back was a window where the dead bodies of people that didn't make it or a severed limb would be lowered to the ground, and they used that so that people waiting to be operated on couldn't see it, and people in front of the house couldn't see it because it was in the back of the house. The most gruesome part of the hospital was, and that's where most of the haunting activity occurred, was in that operating room. It was the most haunted room in the house. And another story they told was Grandma and Aunt Deller were across the road in their new house doing laundry, and they would wash their clothes there, and then they would pack them across the road to that Civil War house and hang them on a clothesline behind the house. And Aunt Deller was over there, and she was hanging them clothes, and they could hear voices coming out of that house, like they were having conversations in there, and she could hear people. And she went back across the road and told Granny that she could hear people talking in that house. And she said, well, we don't have it rented out or nothing. There's not supposed to be anybody in there. And she had a key to it, so she went across the road and went inside the house, and her and Aunt Deller looked all through it and couldn't find nobody in that house. So no one knows where those voices were coming from. And not only was it haunted by all these Confederate soldiers and all this traumatic stuff, but I suspect that there might have been something demonic, and someone might have snuck in that house and performed some kind of satanic ritual, because Timothy told me that he stood in front of that house and looked up at the upstairs window, and something with red eyes and horns pulled the curtain back and looked down at where he was, and came out of that house and chased him back across the road. And he said that it sounded like it had hoofs, and it sounded like it had 2 legs, not 4 like a horse. And that after he ran back to his house and shut the door, that demonic entity went back across the road and left him alone. But I believe that's all I know about that house. And I'll tell you, it's spooky to me, and I want to give a great big shout out to David Chrisman and Timothy Alexander for telling me what they knew about that house, because I really didn't know much about it other than it was haunted, and that I had to stay away from that house and not to go in that house for any reason, because of what might happen to me if I went in that house. And it's tore down now, so I feel like I'm safe. Well, I'll talk to you later. Happy Halloween. Bye.